Good evening, everyone. It's Tom Sydney Bushnell, aka Numbers, here from Psych.Club, the Tom Numbers Show. News of Tom Numbers and top of your game. And I've got a friend of mine who is at the top of his game in what he does, and that's Mr. Steve FORSYTH. Steve is a plethora of all kinds of knowledge. He has a certain few things that he's very hot on. One of the things I wanted to start off with, Steve, was I saw a brilliant show you just did with Mark Atwood just yesterday. But frequency, so in the numbers, frequency is 114, which is JFK Junior or JFK Truth. It's trump card, it's frequency, and it's also history. Now, I'm sure you probably, well, we can talk about it, but I believe if we're able to change our frequency, we can literally change our history and therefore our future through frequency. So anyway, I want to welcome you to the show, buddy. We've been talking about this for a while. We were going to do it about 6 months ago, but we're here today. And I have it on good authority from yourself that this is probably, in all likelihood, your last interview before we get to the flip, before we get to the moment of celebration, the Jubilee, the reveal. So how are you, man?
Yeah, good, Tom. Yeah, thanks for having me on. And yeah, as you know, we've talked a lot. You live in the same town, but we've never actually managed to get together face to face, which we will do.
And, we will do, yeah, we will do.
Yeah.
Because there's things I want to. Well, it will come up in the show, but there's things I want to experience some of the frequency modalities that you're sharing and helping heal people with. So I'm definitely interested in that. So we definitely will meet. I think it will be probably in the next week or so. I think probably can't see why it won't be. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And yeah, it's funny, the whole his story thing is yeah, you know, I see it as we're currently creating our story.
Yeah,
you know, and you know, I briefly touched on that with Mark as well, but yeah,
go into that, because I think that's interesting, because I think, you know, the whole thing with the observer effect, if it's quantum physics, are we creating our story? I think we are. There was a quote that came up on a YouTube short with Timothy Chalamet, the actor. He's in the film Interstellar, which is one of my favorite Q films by Christopher Nolan. He plays a guy called Tom, plays a kid called Tom. I was like, that's Timothy Chalamet. I've seen him from a distance before 2020, but he says, and I'm probably misquoting him, but he says, instead of life happening to us, it's coming from us. So we're the ones emitting it. We're the ones producing our reality, which I think is true. And if that is true, how do we consciously, deliberately apply that in our own life to create the heaven on earth that we all desire, you know? Yeah,
I mean, it is interesting, and it is a story, and it's a journey. And you know, when I started using the frequency, I realized very quickly this was you know, a journey within, and it was a remembering. And you know, when you think from the time you arrive here, is you're told you only use 10% of your capacity. And I realized very quickly that this was you know, we were at a stage where they'd managed to program us, poison us, and they actually stole 90% of our memory. And you know, when you correlate, Mark asked me a few times last night about, have I read Q, have I watched Q, and everything else. And I had this, so I've had this knowing for a long time that we are all Q, we are all quantum in our capability.
Yeah. And
you know, to put that into reality, what does that actually mean? It's, you know, I've got to a stage where I can, you know, say for example, prior to coming on to do something like this, I will go through various different scenarios, and I trust and know that when I'm going to deliver, the right thing comes out to have the right effect.
Yeah.
And I've experienced that. And you know, everything I've done over the last 4 years, I've only once read a script, and that's actually something I was discussing with myself earlier.
Yeah.
When I went to a centre, the night before, a video popped up, and I watched it, and I took note of what was being said, and it was perfect. And I thought, I don't need to do anything. And so Madeline sat up until the early hours transcribing it and putting it onto paper so I could actually deliver it. And I woke her up in the morning laughing because I had remembered, you know, while I was still asleep, that the there was a police officer and someone else delivering the information. And I remembered the police officer's name was Steve Wynn. And so I woke up in laughing, knowing that it was going to be a pretty good day. And yeah, and it was, you know, it was successful. So, you know, I am conscious of not saying, you know, going into that side of it too much, but I have, you know, with the numbers thing, I discussed with you off air, is I also, you know, when I talk about unique signs and signatures being put forward so we would remember our mission.
Yeah,
you know,
I love that. That resonates so much. I love how you put that, because I've been getting that all Easter eggs, I call them.
Yeah,
so they've been cut. But when you said we place these signs and signatures, I'm like, he's bang on. He's bang on with that. He's bang on with that.
And I've got things that I was going to show you when I met with you. But for example, I walked out one morning and I stepped on a small golden keychain. There was basically a golden Uzi. And I immediately put that into Gematria and it came up as Donald Trump. And a few days later, I stepped out of my car, put my foot and slid on another keychain, which was, I think it was the Empire State Building. And depending on what you put it in or how you put it in, the keychain, the golden keychain with the golden Uzi actually had Supreme written on it. And I can't remember what I put in at the time. But the other one with the Empire State Building came up as JFK. And then a week later, in the same place, I went back to my car and there was a grey owl by the side.
Well, Empire State is 131, which is John F. Kennedy. So,
well, yeah.
And the word building is 78, which is Kennedy. So you're exactly right with that.
Right. Yeah. So there's all these little things that happen to give me confident that I was on the right path. And, you know, I'd go out to my car and on the driver's window would be a white feather. And, so this has been a constant thing, but the numbers for me, but when I say numbers, I feel like I'm being rude because I look at that as your last name. But
all right, the audience gave it to me, that kid. But then the audience, first of all, it's called Numbers.
Yeah.
Barry Hen, the boxing promoter, he always refers to me as Numbers. So if you're watching Bazza, but then out of just the audience called me Tom Numbers, and it's brilliant. I think that's great. It's like, you know, I always introduce myself as Tom Sidney Bushnell, aka Numbers. Yeah. Occasionally I say Tom Numbers, but it's like, hey, that's brilliant. If the audience have given me a name which I honor, it's fantastic, you know. Yeah.
So when I've been sharing my sort of experience, you know, and telling other people, as soon as I mentioned to them that I went through, I could see the big jump in being able to sort of start connecting everything was when I started seeing double numbers. So, you know, I pick up my phone every day and it'd be 1111, or I go into my car, it'd be 1111. So 1111 was really significant.
Yeah.
And then I'd tell other people, and literally the next day they'd be sending me screenshots of like 1515 or 1616, 1414. So I knew that was a powerful thing. So knowing how the other side work and the fact that they use significant dates, I've discussed this with you before, you know, the burning of the Notre Dame Cathedral.
Yeah. April 15th.
April the 15th. The sinking of the Titanic, 1912, April the 15th.
Yeah.
Assassination of Abraham Lincoln, 1865, April the 15th.
Yeah.
Their false flag terror attacks. you know, Norway, 22nd of the month. Then you've got the Woolwich attack, 22nd of the month. Then the Brussels attack, then the Munich attack, then the London attack, then the Manchester attack, all the 22nd of the month. You know, 753, 735, 11, 13, 16, 16, 17, 17. So what I decided to do was enable, in order to be the most effective I could be when I was going to certain places, I would pick specific, I would use my numbers.
Yes.
The powerful 11, 11, the 1, 1, because 1 + 1 I see as infinite.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went to HQ, the police headquarters, I went on the 11th of the 1st, 2022 at 11 o'clock. When I went to a specific centre, I went on the 18th of the 1st, 189 1 10 1. And you know, there it goes. And then when a certain investigation was closed down on the 22nd of the 2nd, 2022, I knew that was a significant date for them. So what I did is when I went in, delivered a full 88
Trump
forensic report, I went on the 22nd of the 2nd, 2022. And I know in warfare, there's always a counter to a counter. And when we went to Bristol, I went on the 10th, the 1st of the 10th, 11 11. When I went to Windsor, I went on the 10th of the 10th, 1 1. So I've tried all the way through this, you know, when we've all organised to do something and we've come together, it's using that power of the numbers to be most effective. And 7's been a very powerful number for me with the numbers. Yeah, so it excites me because you know, if they can use that against us, then we can definitely flip it all on its head.
Oh yeah. Well, President Trump is a master at it. So when he's speaking, and there's some codes here which I'll go through in a second with you, Steve. So when he's speaking, he's doing all these things all the time, you know. And people are like, if they're uninitiated, it's like, oh, that's a bad thing. It's like, well, he's metaphorically and sometimes literally sticking a finger up at them, because intrinsically everything is good until you got into this separation of duality and dark to light. You know, it's like, so however our origins were before we came to here, you know, I'm an eternal optimist. So it's like, well, everything is intrinsically good anyway. But then, okay, we're in this game, we're in this, whatever it is, game is 26, card is 26, God is 26. So whatever we're in, you've got the two sides, for want of a better phrase. And so they know the things about the numbers, and you can see that clearly, how they've been doing things. And then us as the awakened ones that have left these Easter eggs or signs and tokens or whatever they are that we pick up along the way that we've sent to ourselves from the future, we pick them up, bang on time. Numbers, it's like, well, there's a balance to it. And you just said within military warfare, there's a counter move, so it could be exactly the same number, but it's on time. I mean, President Trump. So the word here, so Trump after the deal. So after the deal is 148, which is Donald J. Trump. Simple gematria, which is the number coding that I use, which he uses. Trump is 88, as you know. When President Trump gives a speech from the rostrum, his text donation campaign number is 88022. 88 is Trump. And then the 0, I like to keep the 0 open, but people like one usually drop it. Then you've got 22. 22 is deal. 22 is deal. 22 is MAGA. Now, MAGA, Make America Great Again. Apparently from the societies, there's also a level high up in their fraternities and levels, and MAGA, that's, you know, on their side. So he's got it right in their face, and he's like, MAGA, Make America Great Again. And it's like one of the top levels on the dark side. And it's like, how can that be? Well, it's obvious when you just get, you know, emotionally uninvested from it. You're like, well, that's it. It's counter moves. It's, you know, they're basically flipping everything back on them, and they're regaining all the numbers, all the codes, all the frequencies. And it's the intention. So people get hung up on stuff, and it's like, well, if your intention is pure, if you have a pure heart, pure intention, then it doesn't matter where you get it from. You can turn anything into good. You can be the eternal alchemist, which is what God is, and that's what we are. We're all part of God, and we're flipping things back. And so,
yeah, and
he's been doing it for ages, you know, and we're seeing it and experiencing it, particularly in the last 4 years, you know.
Yeah, and there's a Marines use this a lot. It's mega, is opposed to mega, which is, you know, it's mega.
Make Europe great again, make Earth great again, make England great again,
make Earth great again,
make everyone great again.
And mega is actually God.
Yeah, 26.
Yeah.
Game 26, God 26. It's all there. It's all there, and it's fun. It's like, and when people get it, they get their own numbers coming to them. They get their own synchronicities. You know, it's like you get it for the phone, you get it for the TV station, you get it. Someone walks past and they said someone's name or phrase that you've just been thinking about, and you're like, hang on, this is a lot more delightful and divine than we could possibly imagine. Because when it happens thousands and thousands of times, you're like, I'm happy with that.
I mean, what are the chances of the Executive Order 13848, which is fraud vitiates everything, which has come into play now, in the case of foreign or domestic interference in a stolen elections, being from a Supreme Court case hearing, USA v. Throckmorton in 1878, the very year that Queen Victoria put the obelisk in the City of London. And that makes you realise, when you look at and you connect the dots of the last 4 years and the disclosures, and you look at 2021 in particular, and you look at the release of UK Space Force, Air Vice Marshal Paul Godfrey went live on air in the US and talked about the UK Space Force, and then the TRB-3, the Triangular Magnetic Propulsion spacecraft, and then there were 33,000 earthquakes in 10 days in the Antarctic, and then people started sighting UFOs. So then that sort of puts you into a different space where you, knowing that you were quantum in your capability, is it that when we were on arrival here, as a collective consciousness, being quantum in our capability, being able to, it's a speed of process, would we have been able to foresee the exact space and place this final attack would occur? And our plan that we set forward would be so divine in its conception, it would never fail. And that's where individually we would have agreed to forendure the darkness for this period, to be here at this exact time with our exact signs and signatures, in order to be able to remember our own individual missions. And as we raise in our vibration and our frequency coalesces mass, we draw the people in that we need in order to ensure our survival. Because the truth is, this was what it was. And I don't want to get you,
Well, 138, the executive order, 138 is Donald Trump. So Donald Trump in numbers is 138. Donald J. Trump is 148. 48 is Tom, so I like that personally, but there's other things with it. You said then immediately after that, you said Supreme Court. Supreme Court is 174. 174 is the very first piece of numerology gematria that President Trump and Melania shared with us when they came down the escalators. And incidentally, talking about our own signs and signatures, I met Ivanka Trump 5 days prior to that in Manhattan, just up the road, literally just probably 100 yards away from when he came down the escalators. But I did that 5 days prior. Little did I know consciously what was going to happen, but now it all makes sense. But yeah, so it says currency exchange at the top. They come down the escalators, the golden escalators, and it says currency exchange. That's 174 in numbers. That's Supreme Court, but it's also real Donald Trump. So that was real Donald Trump that came down. And I personally feel that when he went under the escalator, I've never said this, but I'm going to say it with you, Steve, in the audience. I think when he went underneath the escalators, we then saw POTUS, who's also Donald Trump, but he's POTUS. POTUS is 91, Space Force. And so I think we saw both of them when they came down and did the swap, you know, a bit like Mr. Ben. But nevertheless, it's right there, you know. Melania Trump is 143, which comes to Building 7, which comes to Ground Zero, which comes to November 5th. And what's the date of this special election this year? November 5th. We've been told, particularly here in England, but also globally, to always remember the 5th of November. Remember the 5th of November. There's a Q post that talks about a week to remember. When are the two dates or two days in the calendar tied to remember? You said about 11/11. That's Armistice Day. That's Remembrance Day. 11/11. So a week prior to that is November 5th, which is remember the 5th of November. And then a week later, you have Remembrance Day, which is 11/11. And both of those two dates historically are tied to the word remember. And Q says, remember. I was going to do this with Nino, but I still will do it with him, but I'm going to do it with you, Steve. So in numbers, A is 1, B is 2, C is 3. Remember the 5th of November comes to 355. Okay. It also comes to Westminster, Parliament Square, 355, which is right next to Parliament. Houses of Parliament's 217, which is Lady Diana Francis Spencer. It's also Tom Sidney Bushnell has introduced myself. It's also Mission Impossible. President Trump has got an index here in his book. Actually, the index starts on 369, which are the Tesla numbers. But then look at this one, Steve. Everyone look at this. Hopefully this is, can you see that clear enough?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, hang on.
So the very last chapter, what is it? Can you read it out?
Yeah.
Are you able to read that out for us, Steve?
I think that was how the deals came out. Yeah.
Yeah, and then what's the other part? There's two lines. What's the other?
I don't really, how the deals come out.
Yeah, and then what about the week? What does it say?
The week that was.
The week that was. And what page number is it?
$355.
355. 355 in numbers is remember the 5th of November. The Q post is a week to remember. Starts on November 5th, goes through to remember, which is Remembrance Day. And he says, the week that was, so it's a week, as the Q post references, says how the deals came out. And he's marked it with the page number, which is 355, which is remember the 5th of November. And his wife, his beautiful wife, Melania Trump is 143, which is November 5th. Everything's been coded. So you talk about these future messages. President Trump has obviously done it as well. And if we've got the eyes to see it, we can see it. If you do art of the deal, it's 115, which is 11/5, which is November 5th. That is, in my humble opinion, that's when we're going to see the fireworks that we want. And that's when I'll be able to get you back on the show, because we'd have been decided the victory. But time will tell, but that's what I believe. Yeah,
I mean, the only difference is, Tom, I mean, this is a war, and we're at a pivotal point where all wars, conflicts end, and decision is made on the mitigation of further death, harm, and injury. There is no other consideration, and Space Force, the Military Global Alliance, are our brothers and sisters. I did an SOS on the 4th of December 2021 and asked for assistance, and the decision will be made. And you don't tell your enemy when you're going to strike. You can put dates out, you can put whatever you want out, but we have to do the right thing. And the only right thing to do is exactly what I've said. We have to mitigate further death, harm, injury, and suffering. And why would you go to another election when you know the election was stolen? It doesn't make
Exactly.
any
Well,
sense.
that's the thing. It's a market. They put that, but I see that as the victory point. I see that whatever's coming, something has been set in stone because we've been told to remember it. And President Trump has said this is the final battle, 2024. So I don't necessarily believe that they're going to go and have one, but whatever's coming, I don't know how it's all going to happen. I do see that as the critical over the hill point, you know, the victory point, in my opinion. But I'll be proved correct or not as in time.
And you know the thing is, Tom, we have the ability to change the course of negative events with the light we shine and our intention. And we put out.
Yep, we do, and it's. I'm ready for. I was ready 4 years ago, I believe, for it to all be done.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was going to go on this long, but nevertheless, it has, and we're here. And I do trust what President Trump says when he says this is the final battle. So to me, that I believe what he says, that it's the final battle. I don't know how it's all going to unravel, and we have to keep doing our thing. We have to keep shining the light. We still have to keep taking positive actions. Positive is 11/5, which is after the deal. That's 11/5. That's November 5th. For some reason, that's the only date in history we've been told to remember. It's one of those Easter eggs. It's one of those signs that has been sent back.
Well, that would be programming in itself, wasn't it? The continual remember, 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 remember. You know, we've been programmed. We've been programmed to be directed in one way, and you know, you strike when it's least expected.
Yeah. Well, hardly anyone's even going to pick up what we've just said.
No,
that's the thing, you know. But the thing is, it's like and I used to think this. I was like, hang on, if we're revealing certain things early on, is that going to change the history? You know, is this going to change the course? And then I was like, you know what? We just have to do what we're going to do. Yeah. We just have to do what we're going to do. And if we can do, you know, certain healing or frequency work or decoding in the numbers, whatever it is, it assists the positive flow of everything. And don't get me wrong, I'd love it if it was done yesterday. I felt it in 2020. 3 weeks in, I was like, hang on, why can't anyone see this? This should all be over. I thought it was going to last for 3 weeks. And we're here, you know, 4 years later. But I didn't realize that there were so many others that needed time and military operation. Military is 107, it's quantum. So when Q talks about the only way is military, yeah, it is, but it's also the only way is quantum. Yeah. Because 107 is quantum, military's 107, Trump's is 107, Aquarius is 107, currency is 107, eternal life is 107, Superman's 107. There's so many of them, and it's like, and then you drop the 0 and it's 17, it's Q, it takes you back to the beginning again. It's like, well, whatever's coming is coming, and we all need to do our job, but I do think we're on some kind of divine clock. I don't understand all of it, but I do have a little tiny glimpse, like all of us do. And I know inevitably, and you said this to me months ago when we first started talking, you said, all wars come to an end. And the way you said it, I was like, that's exactly true. It does come to an end. There is a point in the sand where victory is declared and the war is over. And that's what we're all working towards. We're all doing our little bit. You know, I watched Dunkirk the other night. Dunkirk is 88, Trump 88. And we're all those little seafaring boats going across the English Channel. English Channel is 131, which is John F. Kennedy. And we're all trying to bring back souls. We're trying to bring them back, healing, raising the vibration. And eventually, there is an announcement that everything's over and it's won. And I'm waiting for that day like the rest of us.
You know, and the thing is, I mean, that is the Dunkirk is the visual, that's the optic. Everyone, you know, that was the end. And the end is the beginning. All the hard work was done the years previously. Yeah.
Well, we've won. The phrase goes around, doesn't it, saying we've won already? So we have. I believe that. I've never been in the process of fear with it. I'm like, I think the only thing I really had to do was do my first video, and I was like, am I going to get a knock at the door? In 2020, I was like, maybe, but if I do, I have to do it anyway. Yeah. I had family members saying, oh, don't do that. It's very, well, you know, but then I very quickly realized we're protected. I knew that, I knew that from that point I did it. I was like, we're protected. President Trump said it. He said, no harm will come to my followers, you know, and I've always believed him. I knew when he announced the lockdowns and the flight bans, but he allowed the UK to travel for a period of days. I was due to go to America that 36 hours after that. And I just knew, I was like, this guy is telling us the truth. Everything is going to be okay. and we don't need to fear. We get through this. He said we're going to go through this period, and it will be difficult at times, but we'll come out far better and stronger and glorious than before. And I knew it was the beginning of the millennium. I knew it was the beginning of Millennium's 122, America First. I knew it was going to be. I knew it was the change. I knew it was the sea change. I didn't know the 4 years were coming. I didn't know about the pause. I didn't understand that. But nevertheless, I'm just very grateful to be, part of it and on board.
Yeah, I'm grateful. And I say this all the time. When you look at how this has panned out and how strategically, innately people have just followed their own instincts and done what they've had to do. And as a collective, we've all played a role, all different, none more or less significant than the other. But it would only have worked in that way, and that's how it was planned. And no one actually knew the bigger plan. But we, the people, had to take back our power, even though Trump stood there on 2016 on his inauguration and said, this is not about going to Washington and another two-tier party. This is about handing the power back to you, the people. We had to get active. We had to learn their dark arts, their deception, of how they've enslaved and entrapped us with all their corrupt corporations. And then we had to take it to them. We had to create the panic from the bottom up. How else do you drain the swamp? But it was using all the tools, all the story, all the messages in order to be able to get active, take it to them, and knowing that it had to be done from a place of love and compassion. That is the thing. And all this narrative now about, in order for us to transition and progress, and we are taking a quantum leap in the physical and technologically, we are about to get advanced modalities. We are these amazing in the physicality, these powerful beings. We've already been on this journey before. We're returning to who we innately are. And in order to do that, we can't repeat the mistakes we've previously made. And this, the Bible gives us so many messages, right and wrong. And there's certain things you need to use your discernment on. And if we are going to go and transition, and we're going into the golden age in this new era, we can't go down the revenge, the eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth route. We need to use what we're about to receive, our advanced technology and everything else. And this is about forgiveness, and I feel that so strongly. It doesn't matter, what's been done. And also I know the people that have gone and have been lost. When you really understand the spiritual side of this and they go to light, that light is still there, that energy. And if we are creating heaven on earth, let's trust what's about to happen. And we must not cast evil back into spirit for it to return again. Otherwise, we have learned nothing from this journey we've endured through this darkness and pain. Nothing will have changed, and we have to break that loop.
Yeah, agreed. We've got to break the loop, and the old laws, the old ways are no longer serve where we're going. We need a totally new paradigm, new set of principles, but they're innate in us. They're the best parts of humanity. You talked about President Trump's inauguration. So in 2016, so people play back that conversation, the broadcast that he gave to the people. He did a classic piece of Trumpology, Trumpism, wordplay, double speak. And you talked about one of your numbers, and you talked about the 3-3, I think. Anyway, so people that have been to Mar-a-Lago will know that when you drive over the bridge from the mainland over to the peninsula where he is, just prior to it, there's a huge building, and it's got a 333. Like, it's a massive number. It's like if you're the postman, you can't not see 333. But it's interestingly enough, it's a dentist building. Dentist is 91, which is Space Force, which is POTUS. Building is 78, which is Kennedy. But it's a 333 building. And that's obviously a very important number because it's one of those angel numbers. But President Trump, in the inauguration in 2017, when he's speaking, he says, we are on the birth of a new millennium. See, got confirmation of it right there. That's my cold wrist laser watch. Links will be below, but that's a great piece of tech. But he actually says, if you play it back, he actually says we're on the birth of a Lu millennium, i.e. in lieu of, to replace. And I was like, whoa. And when I first saw that, I was like, they've hijacked everything, all the Bible, they've done something else. I was like, well, I didn't realize it would come out this way. Like you said, the Bible has good messages and other ones, but it's a great divine message. Lu millennium comes to 169 in numbers, which comes to the Great Awakening. It comes to Trump Tower. It comes to Thomas Bushnell, one of my numbers. But if you do new millennium, it comes to 164. 164 is the mothership. 164 is 5th of November. But if you add those two together, so when he misspeaks and went the correct phrase, so 169, Lu millennium plus new millennium 164, he pressed that, it comes to 333. And I was like, okay.
164 is also 11, and he's supposed to be doing something at 11 o'clock tomorrow. And 333 is also 3.
Well, they're always using it, and you talked about 1111 as yours. So you've got Kennedy, the optics of Kennedy in 63. 63. So if you spell the word 11, it comes to 63 in the simple numbers. It happened on a Friday. Friday is also 63, which is 1111, and we know that Kennedy did the 11-11-0, the Silver Order, not long before the optics of November 22nd, 63. You do 1111, add them together in the numbers, it comes to 126. 126 comes to atomic number for gold, which is 79. Atomic number for silver is 47. Add them together is 126. 126 also comes to John Connor, Sarah Connor, the Terminator movies. They're all Q movies. President Trump has even had Robert Patrick, which is 78, which is Kennedy. He's had the actor that played the T1000, the silver guy, the baddie, but he's actually an all right guy because he didn't have a massive Hollywood career, just one film really. He had him on the front lawn in 2020 and said, "Oh, we've got the T1000." And Trump is always going on about, well, you're fired and you're terminated. And it's like, it's a Q movie. And it's like, it's right there. Terminator is 133, which is simulation, which is White House, which is government. So it's like, what side do you want? The simulation to go? You want the White House to go? You want the government to go? Yes. And it's like, well, he's the Terminator, the archetype. But John Connor, Sarah Connor, they're both 126, which is 11-11, which is a reference to Kennedy. And that's why you get those numbers, Steve. You get 11-11. That's why loads of other people get the 11-11, because it's such a divine angel, Easter egg, sign, confirmation number that's been sent back to us from our future selves,
Yeah.
11-11.
It's amazing.
For Friday.
Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it?
Takes you to Remembrance Day, Armistice Day. It's like, there might be all, whatever people think of that, or the connotations of it. It's like Statue of Liberty. People get hung up on that. And I don't know all the history of it, but everything's being reversed from dark to light. Everything's spiritual is 125. John Kennedy's 125. Dark to light is 125. Time travel is 125. 8th Avenue is 125, where the Nikola Tesla building is, the New Yorker. But 198 is the resurrection. And I believe in the resurrection. 198 is President Trump. All these things are coming, all these things are coming. And what you're doing right now with the healing, with the frequency, you're all the things that we do, all the things we do, we're making a ripple, an eternal ripple in the pond, and we're changing the fabric of the cosmos in a positive way. I want to get more into this healing stuff. So you talked about the frequencies you were listening to on YouTube with Mark, and then you raised them. And I didn't know your story of like where you were in terms of weight a few years ago, etc. I had no idea about that. You wouldn't know that looking at you. It was like, well, he's obviously done some really heavy duty work, so the frequency, I want to come and see, I want to be a recipient of your magic stuff, Steve. I know we've been talking a long time, but we're going to do it because I was like, I didn't know that. I didn't fully understand it. I know you were doing healing and there's lots of modalities and lots of people doing great work. But when you talked about that, I was like, he's actually getting frequencies. And can you take us through that a little bit so people can know a little bit more about how you do that? Like, how do you select the frequencies? How do you implement them? What are some of the results you get, and how do you take people through these stages? Because you were talking about, you start off on this and then you're like, actually, I want to increase it and I'm going to do this. And it seems really quite magical.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I mean, it all started with my own personal journey. So, you know, without repeating too much, I realized that the Earth's resonance, the Schumann resonance, every cell in our body vibrates at the same frequency as the Earth's resonance. You know, that's why they say grounding, walking bare feet, and everything else. So,
yeah.
When you realize that you have, you know, between 50 trillion and 100 trillion cells in your body, and every single cell is capable of producing 0.07 volts of true energy. And then you start going down the route of people talking about chakras and energy channels and being able to open up your energy channels. Then when you look into the frequencies and what the different frequencies do, for example, 432 hertz will realign, open and heal your channels. So what I innately did is I wanted to enhance what I knew we were being given.
So 432 lines up all the chakras, does it?
Yeah, and it heals. So 5 to 8 hertz will repair your DNA. 174 hertz will give you pain relief. And there's lots of other frequencies you can use for different ailments. But it's really knowing that we are frequency and vibrational beings. We're literally a battery. You know, every single cell has a saline solution in it, and your mitochondria, you know, will pick that saline solution up and change it into the ability to signal all the other cells. There's something glitching on the screen. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you're getting it. It's flickering.
It's okay, my end. It's all right, my end. How is it now?
Yeah.
Is it okay for you?
Yeah, no, it's just like the flashing all over. So it's sort of, when I started
raising the vibration, Stephen, it's affecting it.
Yes. So when I saw this being referred to as a biblical spiritual cyber warfare, spiritual warfare jumped out of me, and I'd already started training, walking for 2 hours a day. And I put in, what would the symptoms of the Schumann resonance do? Because they said it was the highest spike in history. So I just put in, what is the symptoms? And it just correlated that they were exactly the same symptoms as they were saying was the COVID. So I went, well, this is obviously a good thing because Mother Nature's gifting it to us. So I thought I need to enhance that. So I went on this journey of using frequency. And I found all the frequencies were over 6 years old. And I started experimenting with it. And I realized very quickly in the physical that I felt incredible. And I started, then there were other ones that popped up to me. I just went where I was drawn to. If it said they were dangerous and tread carefully, I would do that one. So I sort of mixed it around. And then I got to a stage after about 2 years, because I used it every single night for 2 years. I then went to the pineal gland. And that's when everything started connecting. And I knew that I was then capable of when everything's aligned and your energy is flowing, unless you can release it, it's actually quite tricky. So I think it was a journey of knowing that I had to do that in order to be able to release it. So when your energy is flowing and you're aligning everything, is your pineal gland the only way I can describe it is your head feels like it's about to spin off. It's like a helicopter. And which then something jumps out to me, that your pineal gland has oscillating crystals in it. It's your antenna, so it's your receiver and your transmitter. So that makes sense. So then the next phase was I started getting drawn to go to certain locations, and I would walk around until I felt something, and then I would get rooted to a spot, and I would go into a spin and push out the energy. And innately, I knew it was some sort of unlocking or closing of something. Didn't really know. I've got a bit of a clearer idea now. But I just went with the flow because I wanted this to be, I knew what was going on. I knew that, it's all involved. I've got 6 kids and everything else. So I just wanted this. I was willing to do anything for it to be over. So I just allowed, if I was being used as a conduit, if I was literally having to do that because I was being used as the energy source for a direct weapon, it didn't matter to me. I just went along with it, and it's been a journey. I'd go to, I've been to graveyards, I've been up to the Isle of Skye to graveyards, I've been here, there, everywhere, and I just go with the flow. And like you said, we just keep doing what we have to do, and because I do know that we have been given these unique signs and signatures, but we also would have been given codes and keys, and no one would know who's got what, because the deception and the powers, it's good versus evil, and we had to work it out for ourselves, and that's what we've done. And I know, and I've known right from the outset, that there was going to be no other outcome, but we had to be willing to, as they say, take some slings and arrows and put ourselves, in harm's way, in order to get the results that we needed. And I would have done anything, I had, when you go into a different space and you experience, and see, I don't believe in downloads or anything else. Everything to me is an upload. So UL is upload. So everything is stored within. And if you trust, and you get into a place where you trust yourself, you can get all the answers. You can set your pineal gland, you can set an intention with it. You 1 squeeze for yes, 2 for no, which makes sense to me that when we're all in that same space, we'll all be able to communicate telepathically. I'll be able to go, Tom, you there, you'll give me a squeeze, I'll get a squeeze back, and then we'll open up dialogue. We won't be able to interfere and listen to other people's memories, but I know that's how it is. I've tried it. I've even tried to arrange a meeting with someone, then realised I was talking to their subconscious.
You've just said something really interesting actually there. So download is 88 Trump, but I get what you're saying. It's coming from us, like I was saying with the Timothy Chalamet quote, that it's not happening to us, it's coming from us, we're the ones doing it. So I was like, I look at upload. So upload is 69, which is checkmate, which is people, which is financial, which is wealth, but it's got that finality, it's checkmate. It's like, okay, so if you do 88, which is download Trump, add the people, 69, which is upload, that comes to 157. That comes to I think that comes to the Simpsons, if I remember rightly, Brooklyn Bridge. But Trump is king. But then if you do download and upload, so the 2 parts, and is 19, which is DNA. That's a nice strand, no pun intended, but maybe you add them together. That's 176, which is Back to the Future, which is also level playing field, which is November the 5th. But then if you make them plural, so you do downloads and uploads, you add a couple more S's, takes you to 214, which comes to 2020. And we've got that phrase, 2020 vision, and it all started before, but it really, one of the lines in the sand was definitely 2020. And so uploads and downloads is 2020. Upload and download is 176, Back to the Future. And that's November the 5th, level playing field. Full disclosure, full conclusion, 176. But that's brilliant, man. 2020 uploads and downloads. I love that. Yeah.
Was above, so below. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, buddy, how can people find you? Because it's been a lot of fun. It's been a work in progress.
Yeah.
We're here. We've done it. How can people find you? I know I'll find you because we'll be meeting up soon. But how can people?
Yeah.
What do you want? Yeah. So, like, where can people find you online? I know you don't do loads of social, but you've got Telegram, haven't you?
Just a Telegram.
The Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse Quantum Healing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Lighthouse. Let's have a look at that. That's a certain number. So light is 56, which is healing. So healing in numbers is 56. Light is 56. April is 56. House is 68. Mar-a-Lago 124. 124 gigawatts. No way, Steve. This is how it goes. Okay, so I just said download plus upload. So Trump 88, download, upload 69 people, checkmate. Add them together comes to 157. The Lighthouse comes to 157.
Wow.
There you go. That's the beauty of the numbers, buddy. That's how it works.
It is.
We're along that frequency path, and then it's like, oh, what's this? Oh, okay. And it all happens. I had no idea that's what that was going to be. I didn't know what that was, but there it is.
Awesome.
So good stuff, buddy. Well, thank you. Godspeed. Thank you for your bravery, for your endeavor, for your purity of heart, for your willingness to stick your neck out on the line and do what your mission was necessary. Mission in numbers is 98, which is crystal. So it's interesting we talked about the oscillating of the crystal. 98 is independence, it's Atwood. It's also a marker on Princess Diana. So when I was discovering the numbers, when I was being given the numbers the first couple of weeks of lockdown, something prompted me to look up her funeral service. And it's recorded because it's important, and it started officially at 9:08 in the morning. I was like, what's that? That's a weird one. It should be 9 o'clock, 9:30, 9:15, maybe 9:20 or 9:25, but that's wonky. 9:08, that's weird. I was like, that's a code. I didn't know about gematria. I didn't know the name of gematria until about 3 months later. I didn't know about Q. I just knew we were in the thick of it. President Trump said it's going to be okay. He's taken on the press. I got bored of listening to Boris every night, doing head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Like, that's all not garbage. But something told me to look up Diana, her essence, her spirit, her future, whatever it is. I've got a lot of connections with her, but 9:08, 9 plus 8 is 17, Q. And then I realized all thought, where she supposedly rested, is an ellipse with a path through it. Then I found out Arlington Cemetery is a massive Q. My channel site club that I chose prior to 2020, I chose it in October of 2019 for something else. You spell it out, it comes to 109, which spells the word 17, spells the word witness, it spells the word Diana Spencer. And I was like, okay, these are the signs and signatures that for whatever reason, we've uncovered them, and they're brilliant. They're all unique, but also collectively fantastic. And I'm grateful for them. But yeah, 9 plus 8 is 17 Q, but 98 is crystal, independence. Also Romanoff with the V. So thank you, buddy.
Romanoff, isn't she?
Say that again.
Isn't Melania a Romanoff?
I believe she is, yeah. And if you spell Romanoff with an F, you can do OV or OFF. That takes you to 88, which is Trump. Romanoff 88 is also Tartaria 88, Scotland 88, Edinburgh 88, Budapest 88, Copenhagen 88, even California 88, Purple 88. It's all, and you have to travel 88 miles per hour to time traveling back to the future. So it's all been there. The first discovery of time travel, according to Emmett Brown 148, Donald J. Trump 148, Simple Gematria 148, Time Traveler 148, was November 5th, 1955. And 1955 in numbers is 194, which is September 11th. So those are intrinsically connected. Building 7, 143, November 5th, Melania Trump 143, Ground Zero 143, and Barron, who just had his birthday, and looks a lot like the princess from old, you know. And he wore that T-shirt saying, you know, Building 7, that didn't, you know, what happened? How did that fall down? So everything's connected, you know. And you've got the whole Ingersoll Lockwood stuff, you know, of time travel from 100 plus years ago, you know. And then you'll be talking about your thing about David Patton. You know, there's a part 2 there, Steve.
Yeah,
there's a part 2 there for
well,
sure.
Princess Diana actually came alongside our coach when we were in recruit training in the Marines in a Marine.
Did she?
Yeah, yeah. And
Wow.
she made the car slow down and actually go along with the coach for a while on the motorway.
Really?
Yeah.
She's a great woman. Yeah. 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 Mission Impossible is 217. Lady Diana Francis Spencer is 217. Houses of Parliament 217. Tom Sidney Bushnell 217. You look across from Houses of Parliament over 138, which is Donald Trump 138. Revaluation 138. Dome of the Rock 138. The Savior 138. You've got that big Millennium Wheel. Millennium Wheel is 175. Consciousness.
Actually looks like a Q as well.
And it looks exactly like a Q, exactly. Just like a Q. And then a stone's throw over the other side, you go across Parliament Square, and you've got a statue of Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln is 123 in numbers, which is also gold plus silver. The spelling of it, not the atomic symbols, but the spelling. Sorry, not the atomic numbers. And guess what? There's a bus stop right in front of Abraham Lincoln's feet. And the number of the bus stop is actually not a number, it's a letter, and it's Q. And it's right there. So if you do 123 Abraham Lincoln plus Q 17, it comes to 140, which is the Trumps, the military, the quantum. Numbers 140. And then another 50 yards over that way, you've got Westminster Abbey, which is 200, which comes to like a thief in the night. That's a biblical reference. And it also comes to Mount Rushmore. And that's supposedly where Diana, you know, had the funeral service at 9:08. 9 plus 8 is 17Q. And they've actually changed the floor. It's no longer the chessboard. It's a broken up version. So that's been changed. And then if you take it even further, if you do Mission Impossible Mask, which we've been told in all the Tom Cruise films and the ones prior, Mission Impossible Mask comes to 261 in numbers, which comes to the United States of America 261. It comes to the Project Looking Glass 261. And it also comes to November 22nd, which is Kennedy. It also comes to August 31st, which is Diana in 1997. It also comes to the Terminator 2 film reference when they talk about Judgment Day, and they say on August 29th. August 29th also comes to 261. But he references it and says August 29th, 1997. That's another way to say August 31st, 1997, because they're exactly the same value. But everything is all connected. And so the Q plan, the greater plan, the divine plan that you've talked about that's going to come to pass and nothing can stop it is so much more powerful than the bad plan. And that's the caveat. That's the joyous thing that we can all be so happy and move forward with faith and love and gratitude and anticipation and just getting ready for the real Jubilee, you
Absolutely. Know. Yeah, and love's the highest frequency, so
exactly.
Comes everything.
Exactly. Love is 54, which is bonds. 54. Actually, I can say it's a technical thing. So this is, you know, a science. So talking about spirits being born, so where they come out from, the vagina is 54, love. So that doesn't seem to be a coincidence. They're the same value. French, the French language is the language of love. When you all know that French is the language of love, French in numbers comes to 54. So even our language tells us it. And then if you look at the word for I am in French, it's je suis, it's Jesus with an I in it. You know, so even in the language people say about gematria, does it work in other? It does. You might have different references, but it's still just as potent, still just as powerful, you know. Orbs is 54, which is love. And I used to get orbs very frequently in my videos early in 2020 and into 21. And I didn't even know that you could even do that. And I was like, people pointing out in the comments, says, you're getting orbs in your videos. I'm like, really? What? I had a load on Diana, a load on JFK, load on Ivanka, on Bobby, talking about President Trump, my ancestors, a whole bunch, you know. So it's a great time to be alive, Steve. It's great to have you on the show.
No, it's been fantastic, and thank you.
Thank you, man. And you've got Lion there, which is 50, which is Donald. America 50. Fight. And you're a fighter. I know that about you. You have fought gallantly, Steve. So thank you, buddy.
No, thanks. Honestly, Tom, thanks for everything you've done. It's amazing.
The pleasure, buddy. Thank you. And SF, Special Forces, Space Force, SF.
I wasn't Special Forces. I was a Royal Marine.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, you've done special things, and Space Forces, SF. Steve,
yeah, I put myself through my own training course.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know what? I think you and Ben could be related because you look very physically similar in some ways. I'm like, he's his older brother. It's like Steve is his older brother or his uncle. Something like those two are very similar, you know.
Yeah. There'll be some. Well, we're all connected, aren't we? We're all,
of course, yeah.
One, so there's going to be a link somewhere. When I went up to Sky, his father, he did mention to me he's got a relative with the same surname.
Has he? Well, when I saw the picture of you, Aitken, and him, I was like, I'd felt it. I was like, Steve and Ben there's a similar thing about. And I said to when I spoke to Ben a few times, I was like, you remind me of Steve Forsyth, and he said, that's a great honour, Tom. That's a great honour. I remember I was on the pier in Bournemouth when I spoke to him on the phone. And you and me had our first conversation on the phone, and then I spoke to Ben. Yeah. And I said, he reminds me of you. And he said, that's a wonderful honour. That's a great honour. And then when I saw the picture of you two when you were with Jack, I was like, they're not too far apart. Whatever it is, they're not too far apart, you know. So, yeah. And bloodline is 88, so there's a good bloodline. Royal is 71, which is Lady Diana. There's a good bloodline, you know. There's a good bloodline, and in time, I think we'll understand exactly who we all are and why we were. I didn't know this was coming. I kind of, in hindsight, I look back and it makes sense. It does make sense, but I didn't know consciously it was going to be like this. But I embrace it. I'm very grateful, you know. So
no. I mean, if that's one thing, I am extremely grateful.
Yeah.
You know, and I know our children, their children's children are just going to have the most incredible. They're not going to have to enjoy. You know, I sat in a cell thinking, do you know what? If I know what's coming, I never ever want anyone to experience how we've been treated and how we've been enslaved and trapped, because. Yeah. When you see through the deception and you see through the darkness, you wouldn't wish that on anyone, you know. No, you wouldn't. And maybe your children played roles in previous lifetimes. I never grew up believing in reincarnation, but if the loop is real, it kind of makes sense. I don't get hung up on like doctrines and dogmas. I'm open to all possibilities, but it does make sense to me. 141 is reincarnation. Quantum Leap is 141. Mark Atwood's 141. Tom Bushnell's 141. I'm like, yeah, okay, you know. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, whatever it is. All right, brother. I'm going to let you enjoy your evening. Thank you. Yeah. Godspeed.
Thanks very much, eh?
Thanks, brother. Take care. Cheers, Steve. Bye.
Bye.